to Raleigh, and Dad was going to his games with him.
Yeah.
And he won so much that Carolina and Duke hired new coaches because they were sick and tired of losing to State all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what happened. He got all this started.
Yeah.
And people don't know that because it's so far back in history. But so, the upshot was that, Les Robinson left. We hired Sendek, who was an okay coach, but just not the kind of coach to have us contending in this conference.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where the trend really started with all of State's men's basketball coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Gottfried, Lowe.
Yeah. Lowe, God bless him, was an alumnus from the 83. He was a point guard on the 83 team.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But we also hired a succession of athletic directors that were total disasters.
Right.
And when Sendek left, our athletic director at the time had no idea how to conduct a coaching search. Sidney Lowe helped him conduct it and finally just volunteered for the job.
Yeah.
Well, Sidney did not have a college degree and he did not have any college coaching experience. The athletic director should have said, "Thank you, that's a very kind offer, Sidney, but you're not qualified."
Right.
He said, "Okay, we'll hire you."
I'm sure it was hard to say no to someone who was on the 83 team.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
But he was just totally in over his head. He had been an assistant coach in the pros.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He did not know anything about recruiting. He actually recruited decently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But his in-game coaching the college game was just so different, I think.
Yeah.
He just didn't adapt. Gottfried, came in, was pretty good.
Made the tournament first
Made
year.
the tournament.
Yeah.
And made
Sweet
2
16,
Sweet
yeah.
16s. And then something happened. He had a lot of personal stuff going on in his life, and also
He had a scandal as well,
shady
right? Yeah, the
dealings.
Dennis Smith.
shady dealings. And Keats came in, first year looked pretty good. Next few years, okay.
Yeah.
This year, when at the end of the regular season,
I was calling for his head.
I assumed we'd beat Louisville.
Yeah.
But I wanted nothing. I remember that night with Syracuse. I had stopped watching games because they were too frustrating.
For sure.
But because I saw a couple of the early season games, I saw that we had talent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
We won a game against Wake Forest, came from 11 down,
right.
and then promptly lose at home to an NIT Virginia Tech team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then lose the 2 games after that. And I just got so frustrated, I stopped watching.
Mm-hmm.
And I would follow along and we're losing? Good, one step closer.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was the attitude among many people. I mean,
wanted nothing more than for Syracuse to send us off and to send Kevin Keats off as well.
Yeah.
And when we won that game by 18 points, I posted on Facebook. I put a message. Where was this all damn season?
yeah, because I mean they beat us twice.
They beat us twice in the regular season, and then we go and beat Duke, and then we go and beat Virginia.
Yeah.
I was still not real happy with things.
Oh yeah.
And I posted when I was still kind of hot-headed after that game. I was thrilled to see him win. I was happy for him. I loved it. But I said, I hope you all are happy when we lose by 30 to Carolina tomorrow, and when we're going through all of this again next February.
Right, because Keats will get to keep his job. Yeah.
And then we go and beat Carolina. I worked all day, watched that game. It was 11:30 at night, and I debated, should I come over here or not? I was like, it's been 37 years, damn it, I'm coming over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you all weren't back from break. And
Right. Again, it's similar to.
So there were probably maybe 1,000 people out in front of the bell tower. It would have been a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, I've been all in on them ever since. But my greatest regret about this season was that they didn't find themselves in January And I could have enjoyed watching DJ Burns play
more,
for 3 months instead of 2 weeks.
Yeah.
3 weeks, whatever.
Well, again, like you said, the quality was there all season because that showed in the tournament, and and both of them. So I mean, just to have them lose so many games by like single digits and at home, it was just so frustrating. Especially when you have the women's team who is who has those same expectations, but they're succeeding them and they're playing even better.
Oh yeah. And I've always followed the women's team closely too. I didn't go to every women's game, but I went to the big ones.
Yeah.
When I was a student.
This is like my first year like really going to the women's game, and I mean I remember when I first like went to like one of them. I told Max I was like I enjoy this way more than the men's games.
Because Wes Moore is an incredible coach.
He is an incredible coach.
Also, I just think Reynolds is a better like atmosphere.
The women's game, I love the women's game because it doesn't reward dunking and being in your face and showing other people.
Right.
It rewards teamwork and discipline and moving the ball. And
right. Yeah. It's a whole lot of passing, not a lot of dribble.
I always enjoyed that, and I followed Kay Yao's teams closely. So I've been into the women's game from early on too.
Yeah.
I love seeing it getting so much exposure and publicity.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's been great.
I mean, it's boomed this year. Like, I mean, I think like I saw a stat that the national championship from last year got more like viewership than like I think the final game of the finals for NBA, which is insane because like NBA is like global, like everyone's watching it, like But it's just like
it's been great.
Caitlin Clark and then like the girls at LSU and I mean even like some of like the smaller like what was her name, Audie something from like Iowa State. Like
Audie Crooks.
Yeah, Audie Crooks. Like she was a freshman, and people were watching her, and Juju Watkins from USC, and
I think a lot of it is these players are maybe for a long time they weren't really allowed to show their personalities.
Yeah.
And you got so many great stories and personalities.
And
they're allowed to express it.
Yeah.
And then there are some people that still try and quiet it down, but I mean, I think they're just mad that it's starting to get as much attention as the men's.
Yeah,
and in some cases more so. I mean, the Caitlin Clark's games destroyed viewership for like everything.
The WNBA is still, for whatever reason,
it's on the up. It definitely.
I'll be interested to see what it looks like after this draft. Yeah,
I mean, everyone's like looking at it kind of as like a. It's almost that Caitlin Clark is going to be the number 1 overall pick, and Indiana has the number 1 pick
from last year.
And I think last year they had 1 national televised game. Next season they're slated to have 32. So it's like and people love Caitlin Clark. Like I mean, even watching her, like she is very like watching her, like you just can't take your eyes off the screen because any moment she's bound to do something.
And I hate to inject race into it, but I think the fact that she's white.
It definitely does.
People can relate better.
Yeah, I mean, I know me and my friends, we were talking and we were like joking, but we were like, she's like the white woman version of like Larry Bird.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Larry Bird.
Yeah.
Is exactly who she's the best comparison to.
But I think in a way, it could be good because if she does it properly and gives credit to like the people who like founded and paved the way before her, it's okay because it's like she's still a great talent.
Yeah.
But like as long as you're giving credit to the people who got you to where you're at, but also like your peers around you, saying like, and I think at every moment she has, she has like.
Paige Beckers has done a great job as well.
Yeah.
Her SB she credited like all the people
she could just get through a season without getting hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, she did this year finally.
Yeah, and she'll be back next year. I'll be interested to see how that goes.
Yeah. I mean, I know Haley Van Liff at LSU was like, they were asking her some question about something about race, and she was just talking about like, if my teammates were white, like y'all wouldn't be asking them these questions, or y'all wouldn't be like harping on things that they do like other people. And she was like, as like a white woman, like I stand here like just thankful that they even like let me into something that's been a part of their culture for so long and that they've like brought up, and I'm kind of just hopping on the bandwagon for. And I think as long as people do that, like, and just give credit where credit's due, how can you hate on someone?
Yeah.
And I think like all of us, I'm so excited to watch more basketball because it's just more sports. Like if you just like basketball, it's like, okay, well, our NBA season's over, time to watch WNBA.
Yeah.
So
well, I think some people are kind of the other way around. They've
Yeah.
had enough basketball and they're just not that interested in the summer.
yeah,
Or they're into baseball or
Plus, you have the Olympics this year.
Olympics
true.
this
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
And but as far as the future, and of course our other sports, so many of our other sports have done really well.
Football, track and field.
WL really came in after Lee Fowler, who we call Lee Foul Up. He was a disaster, and then she just came in and cleaned house.
Yeah.
And hired some great coaches, and people. Sometimes I'm like, people will say, "Oh, look at our wrestling team. We did so well," and then somebody goes, "Well, yeah, call me when we draw 70,000 fans for a wrestling season, or people pay thousands of dollars for wrestling season tickets," and they don't appreciate the fact that these guys work just as hard as anybody.
Yeah,
right.
And but we've really gotten good.
There's definitely a feeling around
Baseball's been to
campus.
2 World Series, and it's been, and it's almost like it feels like a lot of the misfortunes have been turned around.
Yeah.
Some things have happened that there's a term for it, NC State shit.
Yeah.
And it's stuff like what happened back to Valvano. It's stuff like our College World Series baseball team
The
being
COVID
sent
thing,
home because of COVID when nobody else was.
Yeah.
Our women's basketball team 2 years ago being the number 1 seed and having to play UConn in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Yeah.
And it just that kind of thing. And it's almost, some people say it's a curse. I don't know.
Well, if it is, hopefully it's broken.
Yeah.
I just called it paying the bills for 1983.
Yeah.
And it is, if you're biblically inclined, I think it is rather funny that between 1983 and this year, that the seasons in between was exactly 40 years.
Yeah.
40 seasons.
Yeah.
So we joke about wandering around in the desert for 40 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, the similarities between this team and the other one are so similar. So I mean, it's scary.
But the one thing about it is Kevin Keats better follow up.
Yeah.
I think the pressure's definitely on now.
He's going to be looked at and expected. And I think what happened, now the players, I've read from what the players said it was them not buying in. But I think it was also Kevin Keats being stubborn and trying to fit square pegs into round holes.
Yeah, he definitely adapted.
And he did something to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
And he next year I expect to have a team that I'm not going to turn off the 1st of February.
Right.
And
at the very least, a tournament experience
for the whole season.
I mean, I think with anything when there's winning, like you just get so much more.
Oh,
and I definitely think
success breeds success.
I mean, you can look at it and say like, this team could have been so much better than it already was.
Yes.
Simply for the fact that we had Rob Dillingham at Kentucky committed to us. He's from Raleigh.
Yeah.
He had moved and lived in LA, but he was like, I want to go back home to Raleigh.
Yeah.
And then not too long before everything's about to start, he decommits and then goes to Kentucky. And of course, Kentucky loses first round, but throughout the whole entire season, he was lighting it up, scoring, crazy amount of points. And you don't even sit back and think what would it look like on our team. But I think now players like Trey Parker, who he's been committed to us for 2 years now, and I feel like so many people always say he's going to decommit. He's going to go like straight to the NBA or something.